next guy, Will Shipley, Clemson running back, 5'11", 206 pounds, 9 5/8 inch hands, 30 1/4 inch arms, 74 1/8 inch wingspan. He is 21. He'll be 22 at the end of August. He did not run at the combine, but at his pro day, he had a 4.39 40 at a 1.54 10-yard split. In the 20, he had a 4.1, or in the 20-yard shuttle, he had a 4.11. In the 3-cone, he had a 6.81. In the broad jump, 122 inches. Bench press 16 times, 38.5-inch vertical.
Good numbers, man.
Those were really good. Those are very good numbers. And we talk about pro day numbers all the time being a little bit skewed, so just take that into account.
For sure. Although it was interesting, Jim Nagy put out a tweet today that I thought was really interesting, that he's actually seen that he thinks the Indianapolis track is actually a fast track, and that's why we've seen better numbers in the 40 for a lot of these guys lately than we've seen in the past.
They're changing it this year.
That it's a little bit different, and so he thinks that he doesn't know why everybody's not running in Indianapolis, because he's like, I've seen a couple schools come back where their numbers seem way off and their stuff is much slower than Indianapolis. So
like the Georgia numbers that came in for
Edwards.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why Brock Bowers didn't run. I know he had that injury, but that might have been why he was like, nah, I'm good enough.
Yep.
Nobody needs to worry about my numbers.
All right, so let me get through his numbers real fast. Speaking of which, in 12 games last year, 167 attempts, 827 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns, 31 catches, 244 yards receiving, and 2 additional receiving touchdowns.
So if you guys remember, I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, but we had Max Borghi come out.
Sure.
And Max Borghi was somebody that was hyped in the Devy community. This great pass catching running back. And I watched his tape and I wanted to puke. And I was like, all right, well, here we go. Max Borghi 2.0.
2.0.
That was a Film Nerds episode, wasn't it?
I think we did. And we were like, why do people like this guy? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
But
where did Max go to school?
He was at Washington State. Yep, Washington State. So I was fully prepared to have the same experience, and I was dead wrong. Like, I really liked his tape a lot more than I thought I was going to. This was a player that was one of the top running backs in his class coming out of high school. He was a high 4-star guy, just missed the cut of being a 5-star. I think he was like the 50th recruit in the country or something like that. So really highly regarded prospect coming out of high school. And while I do think that there is a little bit left to be desired between the tackles for Will Shipley, I don't think he's bad or a liability, but I don't think he necessarily excels between the tackles. I think he has decent vision, but doesn't have the power to move the pile and things like that. But I legitimately believe that had he trained this way and played this position in college as opposed to running back, I think he could be a slot receiver in the NFL had he trained that way. You watch him run routes, like he looks like a receiver running routes, very natural pass catcher, really elusive in the open field.
Yeah.
Like I get it if you don't love him because he's not going to be a monster between the tackles, but if he gets to a scheme that will utilize him as a pass catcher, which is a big if, because there's plenty of teams that have amazing pass catching running backs and don't use them that way, and it's infuriating. But if he goes to the right scheme and system, he could be one of the top scoring backs in this class because he will dominate in the receiving game.
Yeah, I liked his tape a lot too, actually. From a fantasy football perspective, again, that's how I view these guys. And between the tackles, no bueno, not very good. Can be used there.
I felt like he had really good patience, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think like he's almost like a Devon Achane between the tackles. I think Achane was tougher and a little bit better between tackles, even though he's smaller. But he can be used between better not Achane. Alvin Kamara is a better example. Like Kamara could be used between the tackles, but he doesn't really excel there. Shipley does not excel between the tackle whatsoever. But I really like him everywhere else. Like I like him, and like you said, the passing game. I love how quickly he can accelerate. His burst, his acceleration is so quick. He's very fluid in everything he does.
Yes.
He's got really good contact balance. And you mentioned how he's in open field. I love the way he stacks his moves. Like, he'll stack moves on defenders multiple different times to get him those extra yards, and he's not afraid to jump over a player as well. So he catches the ball really well. I think he does offer a lot of fantasy football upside. And pre-draft rankings, just on the tape alone, I have him in a standalone tier right after that third group. So 1, 2, he's my fourth tier all by himself.
So he's running back 5 for you?
He is running back 6, I believe.
Okay, I have him at 7, but I could see him getting as high as 5 for me.
I can definitely, 100% can see him getting higher in the right offense, the right scheme, the right draft capital. He's definitely something I could boost because what that is going to show me, more so the draft capital, is that if he goes on day 2 somehow, some way, which I don't know if he will or not.
I think he's a round 4 guy.
Probably. But I'm saying if he does find somehow I know teams drafted him to utilize him and scheme for him. And that's all I'm asking for is him to be a part of the game plan. Because if you can manufacture him 10 touches per game, right around there where he's getting the ball, right around there, whether it be the passing game or out in screens or get him to the outside, there's definitely some upside here for him to score you 10 points per game right around there. So I really did. I'm with you. I like this tape. I think he could be a very solid running back 2 on an NFL team and your fantasy football team in the right situation. I'm really excited to see where he goes because he's a very exciting play, a very exciting, fun, fast, explosive, shifty player.
Yeah, no, I
stunningly stupendous.
So many descriptive words there. Strung together.
He was an odd guy to, I think, try to nail down, right? Because he is a hard guy to, I think, picture in the NFL operating between the tackles. He doesn't offer much physicality or tackle breaking in that capacity anyway. So, you got to think, hey, how is this guy going to win? How is he going to operate in the NFL? And I think it is catching passes. I think that's going to be his likely kind of initial role in the NFL. Can it grow? I mean, we've seen it grow with other guys, an Austin Eckler type of guy, comes to mind. When, he showed enough that the coaches finally gave him the trust and kind of let him run with that job. Granted, it was I think short-term thing for him where they kind of wore him down and they realized, okay, maybe he's better used just in the passing game. And that might be what Shipley's route is, where he gets a year where he's getting everything or something like that.
At least he has the size, though, that a lot of other pass catchers don't. Like at 210.
Yeah.
He's got enough size.
I mean, you're rounding up. He's 206, but
okay, but closer to that than 200.
Sure,
but almost 6 foot,
which is I think a negative.
His BMI is not great.
Yeah, which is a negative. He's taller and 206. So
got some opportunity to gain weight.
Listen, sure, we all do.
Amen.
All we got to do is not push away from the buffet.
What do you grade him at, Matt?
I have him right around a 70, a little above a 70.
I had a 70.
And I think he's going to be a guy that's an RB2 most likely. So I think we're all kind of saying the same thing or we feel the same way, even though maybe we're expressing it in different ways. But I think it's going to be a pass catching role that kind of gets him on the field and gets him fantasy relevant.
Same thing. I texted Garrett earlier. I was like, I had a note here. It's like, is this a slot receiver playing running back? So yeah, I echo the same sentiment. Anyway,
I like cinnamon buns.
I had 3 guys rated at a 70. I had Braylon Allen, Amani Bailey, and Will Shipley. Out of those 3, I would take Will Shipley because of his PPR upside. Like, that's how he's going to win. That's how he's going to have to be fantasy relevant, is catching the football. And I thought he was extremely good at route runner, like out there on the angle routes. Honestly, reminded me of like CMC out there catching the ball. Even open field, stringing together moves, making people miss. So I'm right there with you guys. I would take Shipley probably around RB7 for me. Is that where you said you had?
Yeah, I'm RB7 at the moment. And I could see him getting as high as with landing spot and all that kind of stuff. I could see him potentially getting as high as like RB4 or 5 in the class for me.
Yeah,
I'm not quite there at the moment just because he doesn't offer the total package.
I got him running back 5. I lied.
I'm at 5.
At the end of this episode, we're gonna go through our top 5 for each of us.
I think he's 7 to me.
We should
be, or no, he's 8.
He's 8. Okay.
So I have the highest. I have his running back 5.
Okay. And like I have Bucky at 5. I actually have Braylon Allen at 6, so I just said I would take him over Allen, but that would depend on draft capital when they're that close.
I have Blake Corum, Braylon Allen, and Ray Davis all in the tier behind him. It's just because I like his PPR upside so much, I put him by himself in his own tier.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think, and by the numbers, I have him at 8, but I have Ray Davis like a half of a point higher than him, and I wouldn't take Ray Davis ahead of him.
Yeah.
So there's probably some tweaking I need to do on one of those guys' scores.
Sure.
How old is he again, Matt?
22.
He's young.
20, yeah, he just turned 20.
21
Or
and
no,
a
he's
half, right?
he's 21 now. He'll turn 22 in August, end of August.